Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to dive into one of the most famous poems in the English language, John Keats' A Thing of Beauty. You know, so many of us have heard this iconic opening line. It feels so timeless, so universal. But its real power, its true punch, well, that comes from understanding the world it was born into and the incredibly deep meaning Keats packed into just a few simple words. So, to really get what he meant, we need to do a little time traveling. Back into Keats' world, the world of the Romantics. From there, we can unpack his core message about beauty's eternal power and see just how his incredible poetic skill makes that message totally unforgettable. First things first, to really get this poem, you've got to understand the era he was living in. A time of massive change, and for a lot of people, a time of real anxiety and, well, ugliness. See, Keats was writing right in the thick of the Industrial Revolution, and he, along with his fellow Romantic poets, saw the world around them becoming more and more materialistic, more grim. He wrote about the gloomy days and what he called the inhuman dearth of noble natures, basically a world that felt like it was starving for goodness. So, what do you do when the world feels like that? What was the answer? For the Romantics, it was a very conscious escape. They believed that beauty, especially the raw, unfiltered beauty you find in nature, was the perfect antidote to all that negativity and dreariness of the industrial world. And that idea, that beauty is the cure, well, that is the absolute heart of this poem. And Keats lays it all out for us in those famous opening lines. I mean, just think about that. Keats is making a pretty radical claim here. He's not just saying beauty is nice to look at, he's saying its impact isn't temporary. In fact, he says its loveliness actually increases over time. It grows in our memory, and its impression is burned into our minds. It can never, ever be erased. And right away, he gives us this amazing image. He compares that lasting feeling to a bower, which is basically a quiet, shady shelter, a leafy spot in our minds. It's this mental refuge that gives us peace, sweet dreams, and calm, easy breathing, protecting us from all the stresses of daily life. Okay, so if beauty is the medicine for all of life's troubles, where exactly are we supposed to find it? Well, Keats doesn't leave us hanging. He gets very specific and gives us a whole catalog of examples. Now, this is where Keats does something absolutely brilliant. It's like he's creating a balance sheet for the soul. On one side, he lists all the burdens of life. And on the other, for every single burden, he gives us a specific source of beauty to counteract it. For every gloomy day, you've got daffodils. To fight back against our dark spirits, you've got the inspiring stories of heroes. Each beautiful thing is a direct remedy for a specific kind of pain. And just look at the sheer scope of his vision here. This isn't just about pretty flowers. He finds beauty in every single part of existence, from the huge cosmic forces of the sun and moon to the everyday wonders of the earth all around us, and finally to the spiritual world, in the inspiring legacies of human heroes. But it's not just what Keats says that's so powerful, it's how he says it. The language he uses actually creates the feeling he's describing. So let's look at a couple of the really cool poetic devices he uses. First up, metaphors. Keats uses these incredibly powerful metaphors to take these huge, abstract ideas and give them a physical form, something we can actually connect with on a really deep level. So these aren't just pretty descriptions, you see. The bower isn't just a shelter, it becomes our mental peace. The flowery band isn't just a wreath, it becomes the actual bond connecting our souls to the earth. By using metaphors like this, Keats makes abstract feelings into real, tangible things we can almost see and touch, and that makes his argument so much more powerful. Okay, next up is a more subtle device, but it's so clever. It's called a transferred epithet, and all it really means is when a writer takes an adjective that describes how a person is feeling and applies it to an inanimate object instead. This is such a brilliant way to make his language come alive. The days themselves aren't literally gloomy, we are. The paths aren't unhealthy, the things people do are. By transferring these feelings onto the world itself, Keats paints this picture where our whole environment seems to reflect our inner emotional state. Okay, so Keats has shown us why we need beauty, and he's told us where to find it. Now, for the grand finale, he pulls all these ideas together to show us the ultimate source of all this joy. And he does it with one last, powerful, unforgettable image. So after listing all these sources of beauty on Earth and in our history, Keats kind of pulls back the curtain to reveal where it all really comes from. He argues that all this beauty isn't just a random, nice distraction. No, he sees it as a life-sustaining force, an immortal drink, an elixir that is constantly pouring down on all of humanity from some divine celestial source. It is literally a gift from heaven. So the poem's big, enduring message is that seeking out and appreciating beauty is absolutely essential. It's not a luxury, it's the very thing that gives our lives meaning, that fights back against despair, and that gives us the motivation and the strength to keep going no matter how hard things get. And in the end, the poem kind of turns the question back on us, doesn't it? It's this powerful reminder that even now, more than 200 years later, in a world that can still feel pretty full of gloomy days and unhealthy ways, the search for beauty is a timeless and totally essential part of being human.